Hey, what is going on, guys? I hope you all are doing well today. Elliot here, and welcome back to The Fragrance Well. So for today's video, I'm going to reference a video from Business Insider in which they actually looked at 4 of the most expensive fragrance ingredients in the world. Now that video in particular focused on the manufacturing process, where these ingredients typically come from, and why they're so expensive. Now I'm not going to go into detail on that. I will link that video down for you below if you are really interested in just the world of perfumery overall, including the business side and the raw materials and all that stuff. I think that'll be a good watch for you if you haven't already seen it. Anyway, that is going to be the inspiration for today's video. I'm going to take a look at those 4 ingredients and talk about fragrances that use these ingredients. Here's what I find very interesting. Out of all the ingredients that I'm going to talk about today, they are actually widely used in a lot of fragrances, and that is an interesting subject matter. We'll get to that in a second. But those 4 ingredients are going to be jasmine, agarwood or oud as we like to call it, sandalwood, and frankincense and myrrh. I've got 3 fragrances for each of those ingredients, so we got a lot to cover. So let's go ahead and get it started. Before we do, as always, please remember to like the video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and please hit that bell icon, enable notifications so you can be notified when I upload new videos. Let's get into it. All right, guys, let's go ahead and get it started. So first off, with all of these ingredients, I think one of the things that makes them all so special is they are very unique in terms of the scent profile that they have, and compared to everything else on the entire planet. Even though each of these ingredients can come in varying degrees of quality, thus affecting how expensive they are, even though they can be the most expensive product, it's only at their top quality that they are the most expensive products that are used in perfumery. At a lower grade or lower quality, they may not necessarily be as expensive. I also think it's interesting that these are not uncommon fragrance ingredients. You can find jasmine, oud, sandalwood, and frankincense and myrrh in a ton of fragrances. The fragrances I chose for today, I hope just best illustrate what these ingredients can do for a fragrance. So without further ado, let's start with the first ingredient. That is going to be jasmine. We're going to start off with this fragrance from Mason Francis Kurkdjian, and it's Baccarat Rouge 540. This is the Extrait in particular. Baccarat Rouge 540 Extrait. I don't even know if the original 540 has jasmine in it. I don't think it does on the official note breakdown, but this one does. So think about this one in particular, not just necessarily BR 540 DNA. The thing about this is, in my humble opinion, part of the reason it costs what it costs is part of it just because of its success and the higher perfume concentration, but also I think it's the jasmine. I think it's the jasmine and nothing else. I think the listed one is Egyptian jasmine, which is one of the higher qualities of jasmine, and with the jasmine in this, it is very creamy, very smooth. Jasmine can have a very indolic smell. In other words, it can kind of smell like poop, and it's a very strong and very heady floral note. Not a lot of people really like jasmine, particularly when it's very forward. Matter of fact, I actually don't even have a jasmine-centric forward fragrance. I need to get one. The thing about it is, jasmine at that level is not necessarily something I would want to wear, but I do like the smell of jasmine. I love the smell of jasmine tea, but it is very strong. I like the taste of it too, but I mean, it is strong. And there's a reason why at higher qualities, you probably get a smoother, more rich, luxurious smell, and I think that's present in Baccarat Rouge 540 Extrait. Now again, I'm just guessing. I don't know the price breakdown of why this is so expensive, but you guys know what this costs even at a discounted rate. By the way, I forgot to mention, I think every fragrance that I'm talking about, with the exception of one today, at full retail is over $200. Is that necessarily because of the ingredients in them? Could be. But yes, I think jasmine is a big part of what makes this scent what it is, and probably a big part of why it's so expensive. So once again, from Mason Francis Kurkdjian, this is Baccarat Rouge 540 Extrait. Moving on to one from Amouage. This is going to be Reflection Man. Amouage Reflection Man. Now with Reflection, jasmine is definitely not a centric note in it. In other words, it's not like the star of the scent. But then again, there's not really any note that I think is the star. It's a culmination of notes. Matter of fact, this fragrance has multiple notes we're gonna talk about today, but I'm gonna focus on the jasmine here. And the main point is, jasmine is a white floral. This is a white floral fragrance. And jasmine is just simply one of the notes that make up that white floral heart of this fragrance. You also have notes like neroli, and there's a culmination of other things in here. Not gonna go too much into what else is in these fragrances because I'll be talking forever. Just gonna focus on the central note that I'm talking about. But jasmine definitely makes up a part of this. And here's the thing, if you've ever smelled real jasmine in its raw form, it's a smell that is so unique and so powerful. Once you've smelled it once, it's in your scent memory. So I won't say you can always pick it out in fragrances, but if you think about the smell of jasmine and then smell a fragrance that might have jasmine in it, it's easy to kind of recognize that there's probably some jasmine in this. And again, in my opinion, the smoother and creamier it is, the higher the quality of the jasmine. And again, I would be willing to bet you don't need a lot of it for it to really take effect into a fragrance in terms of using it for its magical properties that makes fragrances so great. So once again, from Amouage, this is Reflection Man. All right, the final fragrance featuring some jasmine is going to be from Novitus Parfums, and that's going to be Eau Debonaire. Novitus Parfums Eau Debonaire. As I mentioned, there was only one fragrance that's under $200 retail. That is this one here. And this one here is another white floral fragrance. You just pretty much can call it a white floral fragrance. Now, tuberose, in my opinion, takes a little bit more of a forefront with this fragrance, but you can definitely pick up that jasmine-like quality because there's also tuberose and neroli and the jasmine. So again, it's a white floral fragrance, and tuberose is another one of those florals that can take over a scent, but it's really well balanced in this one. I really like this, how the white florals come across in this. So yeah, this fragrance here definitely makes use of jasmine. Again, if you're used to smelling jasmine in a fragrance and you just kind of think about what jasmine can be and you smell it in a scent, you can pick it up in here. Shout out to Bowtie, the fragrance guy, for creative directing a fragrance that has notes like tuberose in it. I'm not the biggest tuberose fan. I like jasmine, but I don't really like tuberose. But he made or at least creative directed a fragrance that presents tuberose in a way that I actually really enjoy, and that's what this fragrance is. And jasmine is playing a part in that. Once again, from Novitus Parfums, this is Eau Debonaire. All right, guys, let's move on to the next ingredient. That is going to be agarwood or oud. Now, most people know that oud is a super expensive ingredient, particularly the higher the quality, depending on where it's come from. If it's natural oud versus synthetic oud, naturally occurring oud versus man-made occurring oud. It can vary in price range. It can vary in the scent profile. It's a very wide-ranging fragrance ingredient that has magical properties, but not all oud is created equal. I'm proud to say that the oud fragrances I'm going to present today are all real oud and high quality oud, at least in my opinion they are. So first up, from the house of Arabian Oud, this is going to be Blue Oud. Arabian Oud, Blue Oud. If you've been a part of my channel for a while, you've seen me talk about this a number of times. I like to call this scent a symphony of oud because it features multiple types of oud and like a musky accord that kind of tie them together. And it's like this dance of showing you what oud can be in fragrance form. In my opinion, still one of the better value and bang for your buck real oud fragrances to really introduce you to what oud can be. The two types of oud represented in this are Cambodian oud and Indian oud, and all of it together, I mean, you get bright oudy notes, you get resinous oudy notes, green oudy notes, some sweetness, woodiness. It's really a symphony of oud, if you will, and in a way that I honestly think is relatively wearable in terms of an overall oud fragrance. But this is real oud. I have had the pleasure of smelling real oud being burned as an incense. It is a magical experience. If you get the chance, take it. And also a big win for me, they literally just opened up an Arabian Oud boutique right here in town. So now I don't have to travel out of town to go visit one. Once again, from Arabian Oud, we've got Blue Oud. All right, next one is coming from Amouage, and this is going to be King Blue. Amouage King Blue. Now, the oud in this is Assam oud. I think that's how you say it. Assam oud, which I believe is a form of Indian oud. And this oud is more of that tougher variety of oud. Not lower quality, just a tougher smell to kind of get used to, if you will, if you're not used to smelling oud or used to what oud can offer. This one's more of the barnyard and hay-like earthy type of oud. Now, there are things in this fragrance to counter it, and also this is another one that actually features other notes, but I'm using it to represent oud. But there are things to kind of counter that rough nature of the oud that is in here, particularly for those who might find it a little tough to wear, but it's definitely noticeable. And this is one of those types of ouds I think you have to build yourself up to if you're not used to it, or you weren't kind of like me that, you know, I liked oud right off the bat. I didn't necessarily like the tougher ouds right off the bat, but it didn't take me long to really warm up to it. But I know I'm a little bit of a weirdo. I like weird smelling stuff. Most people are not like that. But in my opinion, there is no denying that the quality of oud in here is top notch, in my opinion. Maybe not the highest quality ever, but it's good quality oud, and the price point of the fragrance certainly reflects that because they used a lot of it in here. It's not just sprinkled in there just to add some depth. It's a feature point for the fragrance. Once again, from Amouage, this is King Blue. All right, I got another one from Arabian Oud, and this is going to be Majestic. Arabian Oud, Majestic. And just FYI, just because the house is called Arabian Oud doesn't mean every fragrance they have has oud in it. Matter of fact, I'd be willing to bet a majority of them actually don't have oud. But this one does, and I wanted to really highlight this one because this is a fresh oud fragrance. Yes, oud can be used to give off freshness. And this fragrance here is definitely more of a warm weather, oudy fragrance, and the oud variety in this, I don't know what exactly it is. The note breakdown doesn't necessarily say what type of oud it is, but the oud in this is brighter, a little less earthy. It's not really earthy at all in my opinion. It's kind of got this balsamic resinous feel to my nose. Again, I don't know where this oud come from. You know, the note breakdown does not say, but it's definitely got that oud-like characteristic because again, it's one of those things where if you've smelled oud before, real oud, and you smelled various types, you really start to kind of get the full picture of what oud can be. And there's so many different types out there. You could build a collection off of oud oils alone, in my opinion. But yeah, if you're curious about a fresher oud fragrance, and trust me, there's actually plenty of them out there, but this could be one worth checking out if you're interested in something like that. So once again, from Arabian Oud, this is Majestic. All right, we are moving on to Sandalwood. In my opinion, next to oud, Sandalwood is probably my favorite like raw smelling wood. If you've ever smelled raw sandalwood before, I mean, it is amazing. It smells awesome. And I would say the next one is probably going to be like cedar wood. At least of woods, I know what they smell like. But yeah, I love the smell of sandalwood on its own. Fortunately, I actually don't have, again, too many sandalwood-centric fragrances where sandalwood is like the sole wood that they're giving some shine to. Sandalwood in general is used in a lot of fragrances, but it's usually used to add, you know, a base note, really with a lot of other base notes. Rarely is it used by itself, at least that I can see. So coming from the house of Louis Vuitton, this is gonna be LV Lovers. Louis Vuitton Lovers. If you are familiar with the breakdown of this fragrance by now, you know it is a play on something like Santal 33, so naturally it uses sandalwood as one of the heavier base notes, and it's certainly present in this fragrance. I think the quality is pretty doggone decent for this scent. Again, sandalwood, as you know, is typically characterized as a wood that has creamy, kind of dusty characteristics, a very warm and inviting wood, but also clean smelling. It doesn't have like a lot of bite and bark to it. That's definitely represented in this fragrance. Obviously, there are other elements to this scent. It is not sandalwood centric. It is just a note that plays a strong role in how this comes together. But sandalwood by itself is an amazing smelling wood and definitely very well used in this scent. So once again, from Louis Vuitton, this is LV Lovers. All right, moving on, we got one from Acqua di Parma. This is gonna be Sandalo. Acqua di Parma, Sandalo. So this one here is really the only sandalwood-centric fragrance I have in my cabinet, which is really a shame. Because this stuff smells awesome. I think this is an underrated one from the house in general. But you know, Acqua di Parma has a lot of great fragrances, and what I like about them is they like to make scents that focus on specific ingredients. So this is one of the ones that focuses on sandalwood. And let me just say, when the fragrance dries all the way down, you are pretty much left with just sandalwood. There's maybe some like vanillic notes and a little bit of tonka bean like notes kind of hanging around as well, but you really get the central point of sandalwood once this fragrance dries down on your skin. It's not the strongest thing ever, but it smells heavenly in my opinion. And there are, you know, a lot of other things going on with the scent kind of before that happens. And this may not be the best sandalwood fragrance to get your nose on. Matter of fact, I'd be willing to say it's probably not, but it is one I think worth checking out if you really want to see what sandalwood can do as a lone base note. Once again, from the house of Acqua di Parma, this is Sandalo. All right, last one for the sandalwood category. This is from BDK Parfums, and it's Gris Charnel Extrait. Sorry, I didn't show you guys the name label. BDK Parfums Gris Charnel Extrait. So if you know the Gris Charnel DNA, so the original EDP as well as this one, you know sandalwood is one of those main notes that is tied to this fragrance. It's fig, vanilla, and sandalwood. It's known as a creamy fragrance DNA. The extrait in particular, in my opinion, is just intensified a little bit. It's a little bit sweeter, it's a little bit richer, a little bit fuller, but still makes use of those main notes, and sandalwood being one of them. Now, to be fair, there's a lot of other stuff going on with this scent. The sandalwood does play a characteristic in how this plays across, and you get that kind of sandalwood vibe from the scent, but there's also just like a lot of vanilla in this too. Some amberiness as well. So not the best fragrance to say, oh, I can smell sandalwood specifically. You just kind of get the overall use of sandalwood from this fragrance mixing with other things, which to be fair is how sandalwood is typically used in perfumery. That being said, if you like sandalwood in fragrances, this is certainly a good one. And you know what, to be fair, there's a lot of great fragrances that use sandalwood as a base note in the entire world of perfumery. So it's a hard note to basically not experience to some degree. Once again, from BDK Parfums, this is Gris Charnel Extrait. All right, guys, we are on to the last category, which is frankincense and myrrh. Now, this right here, you could probably say most people, well, maybe not most people, but a lot of people have certainly smelled frankincense in some form in their lives, but probably not the highest quality. I can't say that I have. Myrrh is the same way. I think it's one of those things you might have to intentionally seek out because it's not everywhere, particularly here in the States. You know, in other cultures, frankincense and myrrh, I'm sure, is much more prominent. And also, if you grew up in like a more orthodox church that burns incense and stuff like that during their services, then you know what this stuff smells like. But very similar to oud, incense can come in a lot of different forms depending on where it is produced and manufactured, where it came from, etc., etc. It's a very broad note. So to start it off for the frankincense and myrrh category, one from Tiziana Terenzi, and this is going to be Ursa. Tiziana Terenzi Ursa. Now, to be honest, this scent is extremely complex. I would not say it's incense-centric. It just is one of the things you get from this fragrance, but boy, do I love how it comes across. But you know, you also got like leathery notes and boozy notes and dried fruits. You got a lot going on in this fragrance. In my opinion, the incensey notes in this are a little bit more of a neutral presentation of incense, if that makes sense. And the thing about incense, I guess I should have mentioned it before, is incense can be very smoky in nature. It can be very resinous and gummy in nature. It can also be very bright and lemony in nature. Matter of fact, shout out to Day 3 Fragrances. They unfortunately discontinued the scent, and I can't remember the name of it off the top of my head, but he actually made a fragrance that was nothing but incense, and it had a full note breakdown. It had all kind of characteristics. I still have my sample of it. I need to revisit it to kind of just remember everything it had to offer, but it was very interesting. But yeah, this fragrance here, the incense in here, a little bit more of a neutral characteristic, just adding another layer of depth. Not necessarily the best example, but unfortunately a lot of the examples I have with incense, it's kind of the same thing where they play a role in the overall makeup of the fragrance, but they may not necessarily be at the forefront. But this one here, I still think it's an important makeup of what this scent is. If you took the incensey notes out of it, this would be something completely different. Once again, from Tiziana Terenzi, this is Ursa. All right, so spoiler alert, the next two are going to be coming from Amouage. Amouage is one of the best to do it with incense in my opinion, and these two fragrances are probably the most well-known incensey fragrances in the community. So first up, this is going to be Interlude Man. Amouage Interlude Man. Now for me, the incense in here is more of the smoky variety overall, and also this fragrance also has other things going on, including leathery notes, smoky notes, so it's not necessarily incense centric. Incense just plays a role in this, but this is definitely an incense fragrance. Has the rich and gummy resinous type of incense in it, and like I said, there's smokiness in this as well. And this is another scent where I think the popularity with this one just comes from the uniqueness of the fragrance. You know, a lot of people are not necessarily wearing this on a daily basis. As much as I love it, it's not something I would necessarily wear every day. But this one here is the fragrance that really introduced me to incensey fragrances before I even really knew what that was. All I know is when I first got this, I loved the smell of it, and definitely paved the way for me being a fan of incense in general and fragrances, incense and myrrh, so to speak. Once again, from Rouge, this is Interlude Man. All right, and the last fragrance we're going to feature for the incense category, also from Rouge, as I already stated, that's going to be Jubilation 40. Rouge Jubilation 40. Now this one here is a little bit more incense centric in my opinion, but again, it has other characteristics to it, including fruity notes, including some oud-like characteristics, some woodier notes overall. I think this fragrance actually features 3 of the ingredients we talked about today, with the exception of jasmine. So it's got all of them in it. Matter of fact, a lot of these fragrances have multiple ones. I just wanted to use them to only feature one at a time. But yeah, the incense in this is a little bit more of that brighter characteristic. Still smoky, but not as rich, not as heavy, not as weighted, so to speak. This one's more of a brighter, I hesitate to say lemony, but you know, it's kind of the best way I like to describe it. More of a lemony characteristic to the incense. It's got a brighter characteristic to it. And by the way, I'm showing Jubilation 40, but I'm talking about Jubilation 25 as well. Matter of fact, in my opinion, from Jubilation 25 to this one, the incense characteristics are pretty much the same. I think this actually intensifies some of the other elements you would find in Jubilation 25, but not necessarily the incense. I feel like the incense is the same. Once again, from Rouge, this is Jubilation 40. Alright guys, that is going to do it for this video today. I hope you guys enjoyed this concept of looking at some of the most expensive fragrance ingredients that the market has to offer. There are a few others I could also look at, so I might do a part 2 to this. I do encourage you to check out that Business Insider video. It is quite insightful and educational. Also, let me know down in the comments below if you're a fan of any of these 4 ingredients. Do you like or dislike jasmine in particular? I think that one's probably going to be the one that may have the most naysayers, because jasmine is just one of those notes that, you know, it can be overwhelming. Also oud. And if you do like these fragrance ingredients, put down some fragrances that I didn't mention today that you think represent those ingredients very, very well. I'd really be interested in seeing what you guys have to say. So thanks again for watching all the way into the end. Really do appreciate you guys. Please remember to be well and smell well. And I'll see you in the next episode of The Fragrance Well. Have a good one.